I hope. So, this is the plenary 11. I request the delegates who are still outside, please come in. This is the time to start this plenary 11, and it would be good if we'll start on time. I request you, as per the interest of time, delegates, please come in, be seated now. This is the time for plenary 11, climate action and green jobs in emerging sectors. So all the delegates are requested to kindly step in the auditorium. This is a time for plenary 11.
He wants to cut down on time, so he said.
Please, sir, most welcome. Most welcome. But however, I'll take 30 seconds to
Go ahead, do your job.
give your names and do everything. Please do have your seat, sir. It's okay. It's lovely to see that our panelists are joining us on the stage. So the delegates who are still outside, you are requested to kindly step inside the auditorium. This is the time. We are starting with our next session, and this is on climate action and green jobs in emerging sectors. So this particular session, it is going to be chaired and moderated by the Professor and Head, Center for Sustainability, Mahindra University, Hyderabad, Telangana, Mr. Anirban Ghosh. He's here on the stage with us. Let's have a round of applause for him. And our keynote speaker, Shri Upendra Tripathi, former Secretary MNRE and Founding Director General Emirates International Solar Alliance, Government of India. He is here with us. We welcome you, sir. Let's have a round of applause for him. We also have with us Dr. Kalpana Sitepalli. She is here with us, Director of Sustainable Finance for Asia Pacific, Middle East and Africa, Deutsche Bank, Singapore. We welcome you, ma'am. Let's have a round of applause for her. Dr. Swarna V. Kant, Chief Scientist and Head, Center for Human and Organizational Resources Development, CSIR, CLRI, and Professor, Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research, Anna University, Chennai. She is here with us. We welcome you, ma'am. And we are going to be joined by the project director of ADAPT DMIR, iCars IIT Roorkee, NCR Campus Greater Noida, Dr. Anil Gupta. If sir is here in the auditorium, I invite you on the dais, sir. I think, yeah, so he's on his way. He'll join us soon. So till that moment, we can initiate the session, sir. Yeah. So before I hand over this mic to the chair and moderator, Mr. Anirban Ghosh, I would like to share a brief background about him. So Professor Anirban has worked with the USD 20 plus billion Mahindra Group since 1999, where he heads the Center for Sustainability at the Mahindra University. He was the group's chief sustainability officer immediately prior to setting up the Center for Sustainability. During his work, Professor Anirban developed an award-winning sustainability framework enabled Mahindra to be the first in the world to commit to doubling energy efficiency, the first in the country to adopt a carbon price and commit to science-based targets. Under Professor Anirban's guidance, Mahindra World City, a 1,500-acre integrated township, has become a food waste-free city which is being replicated all over India. In the partnership with the World Bank, he helped create the Sustainable Housing Leadership Coalition to accelerate the speed of green buildings and has been recognized as senior fellow by the Indian Green Building Council. So Mr. Anirban Ghosh is here. So sir, now this session belongs to you. So I hope you are going to be on the time as per the timeline of this session, because I know you have already saved a lot of time by being on the dais at first. So let's have a huge round of applause for Mr. Ghosh.
Thank you very much. It feels really strange that as the moderator, your profile gets read out and you have far more eminent people on the panel whose profile does not. But I'm sure you will hear from them and you will appreciate their perspective. Welcome, Professor Gupta. Just in the nick of time. Those of you who've been listening to the various conversations at this conference since yesterday, you would have noticed that whenever we talk about green jobs, there are certain kinds of jobs that we discuss. I'm hoping that in this conversation, that horizon will get a little wider, and those of you who will be looking for jobs soon will have a wider plate to choose from should you wish to go into the green job sector. So without further ado, let me invite Shri Upendra Tripathi. Sir, your keynote address on climate action and green jobs and anything else that you wish to tell us in 10 minutes.
Thank you, and I'm very thankful to Mobius Foundation for having invited us here. Now, in fact, this is an important topic, sustainability education. Now, I was wondering if it's sustainability in education or sustainability of education. But the first part, sustainability in education, I always test with a small, not anecdote, it is actually a test. And if you win, you get 1,000 rupees from me today, right now, through PhonePe. Now, the mic is okay? Can you hear me? Like this? Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. The question is simple. You know, we have read so much about sustainability of net zero, climate change, global warming, ozone crisis, in schools, in everything. I would like to know any one of you who uses a solar watch will get 1,000 rupees now. No? You do? Okay, please collect 1,000 rupees after this from me. But, you know, it is a solar watch. It requires 8 minutes of exposure to the sunlight, or even this light, wherever photons move. It doesn't use batteries. So the least thing that we can do to help, you know, to respect or honor education that we learn so many things from, and help climate is perhaps to wear a solar watch. Not that it's compulsory. But before I go, I must tell you a small anecdote, because the first anecdote I gave, or the test you give, and I'm congratulate the person who got that 1,000 rupees. She can get a minute of mine out of 10 minutes to speak here. But it's critical that whatever sustainability in education or of education we talk about, we implement action-oriented things at any level. Suppose we are at different levels, we can do that. Because of time, I'm not going to expand on that, but as individuals, we can do wonders. And that is the only way to honor the whole education system that we have come through. We do what we learn to do. And second one is a small anecdote my professor told in Carleton University, Ottawa, where I was studying. This is about a professor who went to a Latin American country. And in this country, he went to downtown and found the name of his shop written 50/50. It's easy, you can remember 50/50. Then he walks to the shop and says, "What is this name, funny name, 50/50? The shopkeeper told, "Look, I'm a startup. I always produce innovative products. And this 50/50 is a new type of meat that I'm promoting with some 11 vitamins and all that." So this professor says, "What is the unique thing about this meat? What is the innovation?" And he says, "I have taken 50% of horse meat and 50% chicken meat, and I thoroughly mixed, and this is the product." The professor buys 1 kilo of this, goes home, cooks and eats, and there is no trace of chicken. Upset, he goes the next day and says, "Did you tell me a lie?" He says, "No, I never lied. I took one big horse and one big chicken, and I have thoroughly mixed it." Now, the second most important thing in sustainability in education and of education is communication. The teacher, the taught, the society, the textbooks, they are in wavelength where we understand within the same frame of understanding. Otherwise, look how misleading it was, 50/50 between a professor who is taught for life and a startup which is trying to create a market. And apart from the first thing that we do at individual plane to actually promote, the climate actions that we learn through education, that communication is very critical, and that too in the climate actions in the green emerging markets. It is not only communication verbal. The other day I went to a solar farm. There are some hundreds of, solar panels. One particular panel was upside down, like a dead bird with the legs up. So I asked them, "Why don't you repair it?" They said, "No, our mechanics can't repair it, because the source code for repairing that solar panel is with a particular mechanic who is in Chennai. He has to come because the company has given the source code and the software and the app to that mechanic, and that mechanic has fever." Now think, a solar panel in Delhi to be repaired by a mechanic from Chennai who is having fever, but nobody else has access to that source code, that knowledge. Now what is the point in this? The point is that the sector, particularly the emerging sector, are getting more and more complex. Through technology, through new techniques, through new learnings, and whatever education system we have to update it, and that is a big challenge. I will tell you the other thing. I come from a small village in Orissa. It's called 50, 100 houses. Last time we went, they told me there are some 4 people who had done ITIs from my village. One of them got a job because he had undergone 6 months extra training in solar. Other 3, they have been appearing, and there is one lady, she has also not got a job. And when I Googled, I found that in India, unlike that globe, the percentage of women is the lowest among the top countries. The emerging sectors, the renewable energy sector, the new technology sector, it is very critical, and we put extra efforts that women get access through this, the gender balance, the gender justice. And apart from the role of gender to be taken care of, I remember when I was Secretary MNRE, we launched a program where to train 57,000 people. At the end of first year, when we analyzed, the percentage of women was again less. And the fourth point I would like to tell is very simple, where we become, the organizations themselves become a problem in the progress. I was advisor to Mr. Naveen Patnaik, the Chief Minister of Odisha for 2.5 years, and I was Principal Advisor Education. We created a set of 314 new type of schools in Odisha, so-called modern schools. They are called Adarsh schools, where through a competitive exam, we take children from block level. Each block had one school, so there was obviously very tough competition. Now, when I went to the classes, I found the headmaster, or the principal we called, was the least taught person on computers. And we had flooded the schools with computers. Now, what they used to do, they used to call a young faculty person who knew everything of computer. And this principal was so unaware of computers and technologies, I was wondering whether he would support computers or not. And this is Adarsh school, newly created, competition-based type of school in Odisha. If you think of an ordinary high school, there most of the teachers didn't know about computer, and things are changing so much. You know, the type of education that is changing, whether our schools, our education system is actually able to adjust it. Last week only, a principal from a very modern school in Bangalore told me, the worst problem now will be ChatGPT. You know, the students, the teachers, everybody relies on that. I asked principal, are you concerned about the students or teachers? He said, no, both equally, because everybody uses ChatGPT. But then he made a point, you know. He said, we are now thinking of a new exam system where we can beat ChatGPT. I think either we have to befriend ChatGPT, and can we change the exam system? Can we test them on ChatGPT itself? Now look at the gap. The gap in one side, technologies are moving very fast. Another side, where our teaching community, our people who are in charge of education are not able to move that fast. And happy in such conferences, you know, where people, all experts are there, we think of long-term solutions. Now think of changing things. You know, all through in the school we are talking about Pancha Mahabhuta. You know, fire, water, air, all that created us. Now, I was looking at the classical model where 17 fundamental particles are there, electron being one of them. Proton is no more a fundamental particle, neither neutron. Now, in how many schools actually we tell them, don't believe what you see, because now all economies are making more money out of things we don't see. Now, is the education system, even in sustainability, in, you know, a climate sector, has it changed that way? How are you going to integrate education and technologies? How are you going to, the teachers today, they cannot talk to the children because the children are so well informed. And these are the children who are running the economy for the last 20 years. And we are saying that they are not doing good math because they are all doing in computer. Even a small child in the shop uses the mobile to do calculation. And we are saying they are not well taught. They don't know good maths. So that is a challenge now. Now, I'm going to make one more point and end it. The other point is, you must have heard about the Mendeleev table, the periodic table. Now, this gentleman, you know, found out some elements, put them in the place. And if you find carbon and silicon, they are just one below the other. And carbon is in the brain. Nature selected carbon to operate our brains, our memory systems. And silicon is in everybody's mobile, everybody's laptop, everybody's computer. But theoretically, silicon and carbon can talk to each other. Now think of that day, and it's not very far off, when I can just think of my mobile and I can read without looking at, I can read in my mind, because they are interconnected, about a macro encyclopedia. I can read about quantum physics. Now, what will happen to the education system? Where are the teachers? Where are the classrooms? So with this, I only will sum up what I told. A, you know, we do what we learn, so that is very important for climate, and it's an honor to education that we came through. B, communication is very critical, otherwise it will be 50-50 story. C, gender justice, you know, we must, because without that we will be lagging behind. For millennia, we have been far behind because our women didn't participate in the economy, and we should not continue that. And the fourth thing is, challenge ourselves. Our education system will lag behind, whether in sustainability, in climate thing, unless we try to keep technology at par with the education system that we're imparting. Otherwise, like the high school teacher who discourages computer, hates computer teachers because he or she himself or herself, they don't know computers. So we have to be at par with that. Thank you.
Thank you for a very insightful beginning to this conversation. As you were speaking, I realized that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Once upon a time, the headmaster wasn't up with the computer technology, which was new. Today, you have a head of the Center for Sustainability who's not up with AI, which is new. So having listened to you, I have to make sure that I catch up on stuff related to AI. Thank you also for keeping time. You mentioned that a couple of people got jobs because they had taken training in solar panels. It was very interesting to hear that, because over the last couple of days, every time we've discussed green jobs, we've discussed solar technicians, we've discussed waste management, we've discussed biogas operators. I don't know how many of you are interested in doing green jobs like this. So I'm going to ask Dr. Kalpana Sitaparli to get us going and tell us, is this all there is to green jobs, or is there greater hope for the students who are here and who are studying very hard in the colleges they have joined?
Thank you very much, Anirban. Let me bring transition to the table. Transition generally conjures some very anxiety-ridden images. You know, images of people losing jobs, people who used to work in fossil fuel sectors, phase-out sectors, and now they're losing their jobs and so on. But transition indeed does offer some very significant opportunities, and though not so obvious ones. Let me break these down into three segments: upstream, middle stream, and downstream segments. On the upstream side, transitioning to a low-carbon economy, for that you would need critical minerals. You need your lithium, you need your nickel, your cobalt, copper, rare earths, and all these. These are from mining, right? Now, that then offers some very transferable skills in the mining value chain. So if you want to redeploy a coal miner from a coal mine to a cobalt mine or a lithium mine, and so on and so forth, there are opportunities there. Then you have in sort of the upstream sectors, you also have the processing of critical minerals. It's not enough just to have the minerals, but then what do you do with it? You can't just build out of raw minerals in your hand. And this is sort of a completely new vertical that needs to develop, and that's something that government can think about, private sector can think about. On the downstream side, you have safe disposal of solar panels. You have safe dismantling and disposal of wind turbines, for example. On the downstream side, you would also have the extraction of critical minerals from e-waste. So as you use cell phone or use servers coming out of your data centers and so on, there are critical minerals that went into those things which then need to be extracted then for repurposing and reuse in the future. You can't keep mining to eternity. You can just reuse and extract. Then on the midstream side, I wanted to give you a specific example of wind energy. There's lots we hear about, renewables and offshore wind and so on. That's the very macro level. But the opportunities indeed may fall within the cracks, the very micro level which nobody talks about. So for example, globally, what is holding back the rollout of wind energy is the lack of your wind turbine installation vessels or service operating vessels. So there's opportunities to, in terms of shipbuilding, but specifically designed to or curated for offshore wind, for example. And so all these opportunities I've briefly mentioned, they exist at all levels of seniority. They cut across your engineering, where it could be chemical engineering or mechanical engineering, or of course your computer engineering, obviously. So engineering, it could be technicians, which is you don't need to be an engineer from fancy school, but you can be a highly, a qualified or trained technician to, like Mr. Tripathi was saying, for your solar panel, one panel had to be, repaired, and you were waiting for that gentleman from Chennai to get over the cold. So I mean, but those need to be economy-wide, these skills. So engineering, technicians, management, finance, strategy, I'll also add, and others have also spoken about it, but also add strong communications to be able to communicate to the local market, the international markets, and so on, what exactly that you're doing. So this over time should become a very vibrant, economy with many firms in this space and a lot of competition among them. And so this is just a few that I've outlined.
Well, nice set of examples to get us going. Dr. Swarnakant.
Thank you. I think I'm audible. I should first thank Mobius Foundation. However, let me now start with what Shri Tripathi has said. So for all the 5 anecdotes, I would like to connect it to leather and see how we are a little different from what you spoke. So first, rather I would start with your third point that was on meat. As long as we all eat meat, the leather industry survives. And the second thing is, you spoke of women. This industry has around 80% of women employed in its product industries, like your footwear, leather goods, garments, and other accessories industry. So in all these perspectives, and you have also brought it about, let me now play a video where we see what is this industry, and we are beyond neutrons and protons which you were talking. Let's see what this industry is. Probably till they play the video, I can also talk about, so I thought these are the 3 important things. But there's one important thing about this industry is the entire world uses products of leather and leather-like materials. We at CLRA have transitioned from, let me say, hides and skins material to lab.
India, country of contrast.
Yeah, please.
Home to the serene splendor of the Taj and the fierce beauty of the tiger. A land of varied cultures, crafts and arts. Keeping pace with the changing times to emerge as a manufacturing superpower.
Fast emerging as the biggest market for all the manufacturers of the world. Indian leather and leather product sectors gain greater importance as they are significant foreign exchange earners and employment providers. In order to meet the changing demands and trends, the leather and leather product industry needs new materials, effective technologies and modern production systems. CSIR-CLRI has been prognosticating the technology needs well in advance and engage in developmental research to fruiting the technologies at appropriate time. The recent future will witness the demand for new materials, specifically non-leather materials, safe and hazard-free products, cost-effective production systems.
Behind the machines are people, craftsmen who don't just rely on technology, but use their talent to create one-of-a-kind products. Hardware and marketing aren't the only investments manufacturers make. Rangoli and Mehendi competitions, exercises to keep healthy, pressures for working moms, all make work a joy because great products are made by healthy hands, happy hearts, smiling faces.
CLRI will do better today than yesterday and forever in the pursuit of development of next generation technologies in the world.
Yeah, from farmer to fashion, what I would like to reiterate in this forum is that we don't, rather the leather sector does not believe, is not the factor that we don't believe in green jobs. We are greening every job that is available in the leather sector because it is mandated for us. Thank you.
That's a wonderful thought. The idea that you can have green jobs in the leather sector, who we usually castigate for being big polluters of our water bodies. So that's a very good thought. We'll come back to you on what you're doing in that space. Dr. Gupta, your thoughts on what are the green jobs that youngsters, especially let's say somebody from IIT Roorkee, can aspire to? I frankly don't think a graduate of IIT Roorkee is going to become a solar panel technician. So what green job is he going to do?
Thank you. First of all, thanks to Dr. Rambuj and Mobius Foundation. And I think this question is very important that you ask. But before that, I would also like to refer that I have been dealing with the subject of disaster risk management. And that is something the most critical urgency in climate action domain. And that past 1 month or so, what we have seen in Dharali, Kishtwar and many places in the country and nearby areas. So that also brings to the front that what kind of skill sets we are looking in climate actions. Those are also needing a very, very strong paradigm shift and a very quick paradigm shift. We have both kind of things like a slow change or a gradual kind of a shift from the past approaches to new approaches, but also the quicker modes of adaptation or resilience. And I think the institutions like IITs and many other institutions and the organizations which believe in developing a skill sets and not only leaving to that edge, but also linking with the entrepreneurship. And then finally, that the impact of that reaches to bringing the ground change. I think that's very important. And not only the flooding or the kind of landslides, but now in our region, and not only in our region, globally also. I think before 15 years, the forest fires were not like disasters. Like if we talk about the California fire or the sometime back, the Australia fire, and in our countries also. So now, the impact of disasters not only on human beings. One thing that the impact on life that we have been able to reduce by effective early warning. So again, there's a job opportunities there. But the question comes that how do we tag something as a green job? A lot of conversations, a lot of dialogues. Are they really green jobs? But I would agree to this that even something which directly or indirectly promotes the protection of environment, ecosystems, or the human well-being in harmony with nature, that has a green value. So that's important thing. For example, even if we provide a better early warning and we are able to safeguard our rhinos in some floods, that is also a green skill, but may not be directly the knowledge of botany, geology, or the animals or flora and fauna. So I think that's very important. So to summarizing about your specific question about IITs. IITs are not only the producer of the knowledgeable or the skilled people. IITs are also the hubs for innovations, entrepreneurships. Now IITs are playing big roles in promoting businesses and small businesses, startups. They have R&D hubs and promoting lot of, and that is in fact in great opportunity that can be thought of a key focus. So thank you.
Why not?
Sure, thank you. Thank you. In fact, this is a brilliant question. You know, what is that IIT from Roorkee can do in green jobs? I'll tell you, give the live example of one IIT chap in Bombay IIT. They're working in two areas. You know, the philosophical or the social purpose is how to make the cost of solar energy near zero. Now think, you know, it won't be zero always, it cannot be near zero. Maybe 1 paisa, 2 paisa per unit. How will you love it? Now there are two areas the IITians are doing research. One is called perovskite height. You know, if it comes through, which is still a challenge now, the energy cost will further go down from 2 rupees 50 paisa, which is the cost of per kilowatt hour solar now, it will go down to 1 rupee 25 paisa. But another IITian is doing research where it can be 5 paisa. Now, how it can be 5 paisa? They are doing research something called quantum dots. You know, you must have heard about nanoparticles, quantum dots and all that. Now, in the solar panels that you see, there is a physics barrier. The physics barrier is like a God's curse. But the curse is very simple. You can never exceed 1 33% of your power capacity utilization, which means with the solar panels that we use today, we can never exceed the capacity utilization or its efficiency more than 33%. Now this chap, he's trying to make it 66%. Now how do you make, and think, 125 paisa will come further half down because the efficiency of the panel will be double, size remaining the same. How they are doing it? They are doing through quantum dots. Now it essentially, affects the behavior of photons, the light particles which come through light and disturb the electron which is captured by the silver tracks and electricity is generated. Now these photon stream has 1/3 unfriendly, 1/3 friendly, 1/3 neutral. So this research, quantum dot, what the IIT fellows are doing, is trying to change the behavior of those photons, 1/3 photons, which will be friendly. And then the Shockley effect, Shockley is the physicist who established that the capacity can never exceed 33%. Now these are the barriers, using nanoparticles, quantum particles and all that, you are trying to change the very nature of matter that behaves. These are the, like, in place of facial, we made bifacial. It went up by, 10%. So these are the areas, these are also green jobs, where, in fact, green jobs is poor. When I told about the lady from my village who became a, couldn't get an employment, but one who got employment at solar training, or the fellow who had the app to repair the solar things. But these are the high-end areas. And Western countries, Western universities, they are trying to capture Nobel Prize by breaking this Shockley effect. So even in energy transition will be much easier if we do this. And as Madam pointed out, if coal is going to stop or phase down, then what do you do with those workers? Take them and put them into strategic metal areas, like all the lithium things that we manage. So restructuring of training is very, critical in this. Thank you.
Fantastic. You all have all done a great job in increasing the palette of green jobs that students can aspire to. Here are the ones I remember. Green jobs in the mining sector, rare earths, chemical industry for extraction of rare earths and working with them, wind turbine installation, in the leather industry, which came as a bit of a surprise. And Dr. Gupta, you actually did a very nice thing by suggesting the possibility of green jobs in climate adaptation. Everywhere else we keep talking about climate mitigation and green jobs. So climate adaptation also offers a possibility for green jobs. You specifically mentioned disaster risk management, and you went on to mention the entrepreneurial possibilities in the green space, which Mr. Tripathi went on to talk about the new product development, all in the entrepreneurial space. I guess your students step in after the research has got done to make sure that these products get to market. So that's a very nice new palette of green jobs that we are discussing today, almost at the fag end of this conference. But there is something very typical about all of these. One is that you reminded me when you talked about wind turbine installation, you reminded me of my cousin who some 40 years ago went into erection and commissioning of electric arc furnaces and induction furnaces, which today are supposed to be a climate solution, and at that time was something which, somebody would turn around and say, what are you doing? And so I'm guessing such opportunities must be bubbling up now so that we could get into spaces which will be very important for the future. But the main characteristic I notice is these are all likely to be new jobs. Jobs which are not there in large numbers today. They're all new and new for the future. Does that mean that these green jobs of the future will replace the existing jobs? For the lack of a better phrase, shall we call them black jobs? Or will these jobs all disappear? Or what will happen to the jobs that are there today? Thoughts? Dr. Gupta, you want to start?
I think this is a very critical point. Now we are talking of auditing everything, auditing carbon footprint. I don't know whether there are any such kind of studies. There may be. We can find out. What is the carbon footprint of a particular job? Which, if we have a comparison, a plumber is doing his job, that's a livelihood. Whether his performance is leading to adding to the carbon footprint or reducing to the carbon footprint. Whether he is suggesting the fittings in a way that reduces water wastage or not. Then there are several dimensions, from technical to kind of a personal care or the like attitude and many things. So I think that's very important. But before that, what I would touch upon, that when we are talking about the green jobs, I totally agree that there are already a lot of green jobs which are existing, but there are several green jobs which are on the verge of extinction also, because they are not having that kind of a market value or the employability or that sellability, which now when countries and societies are gearing up for adaptation planning, mitigation is something broadly known. What are the opportunities, mitigation, but mitigation opportunities are not for everyone. There is a specific class, those people, if they have those kind of skills, carbon auditing and all those kind of things, yet that is one domain. But adaptation can provide a diverse and wide range of green job opportunities, starting from the white collar to the village level skills also. At the mason also, like the people who help build our the masonry houses, these kind of things. So we need to be very clear that the plans and proposals which we are now developing, whether we are developing for any entrepreneurship proposal or any centrally sponsored schemes, we can be a little more cautious that what options we are suggesting. If we can give little more weightage to the greener options rather than the non-greener one, that can help the better opportunities for green jobs. So certainly, if I get something which I have to do and I condition that it should be like a green job, I will certainly search for those kind of people. Otherwise, whatever we talk academically, that is not going to translate change the ground.
Fair point. Dr. Kant, can existing jobs be green at all?
Yes.
Tell us how.
For example, if we go back to, let me now narrow it down to leather, where a lot of startups have come up, and we are collaborating with also IIT Research Park. And one startup which came up, which surprised us was, they were workers in the crops who get into the crops and they plant the paddy seeds. So there was one student our own student, before I could answer this, we have our programs of Anna University, Department of Leather Technology at CLRA. So we remain to be professors, we also remain to be the researchers, and industry is also very close to us. So that's how we tend to keep innovating and keep giving greener solutions to the industry as and when it's evolved. And the students also get to know it faster. So the one startup which was to design shoes for those women or men who get into the fields, into the wet, wet fields where they could plant, and that was really amazing. So we had to come up with a solution, and that it's again green. So in the sense, you should have a product which will sustain the water, which will, basically leather is not so good to water because you can't expect. And at the same time, you can't have shoes which is another material like a plastic which will resist water. So we did it, and it's working, and it has been supplied to many, and it is going to be supplied more. But sir, another thing which I want to tell you about green jobs, for the question which you've asked, and to tell another important thing is, basically we should see green jobs are engines of prosperity. That's it. And education is the compass of our sustainability. If we start looking every job in this perspective, yes, what you asked me was right. We can look at it from the prospects of being greener. That is, an engine of prosperity, an engine of innovation, an engine of change, an engine of looking beyond what we actually believe it not to be green. That is what I would say is connecting the innovation, the research, the green job, and the sustainability. And mostly, everything can become sustainable. That's what I believe. And if we believe, it can happen. That's what I say. Thank you.
It's a very interesting example of making shoes for workers and the sustainability angle of the whole thing. Your turn, Dr. Sitapalli.
I do agree with you, Anirban, when you said that, or you suggested that the jobs of tomorrow might not be fully visible today, right? That's true. However, what we do know today is that climate and sustainability will only be mainstreamed if we have strong guardrails against greenwashing. And that itself comes up with many, many opportunities. And let me briefly talk about them. First, of course, is emissions measurement. It sounds boring, but the fact is somebody has to credibly, accurately measure emissions. Scope 1, 2, 3 emissions, emissions intensity, and so on. Now, there is that capacity is slowly coming up. It has to be completely mainstreamed, right? Then you need to have, somebody has to know what carbon accounting is. You can't have different people coming up with different interpretations and greenwashing, hogwashing, whatever, right? Then India is building its carbon markets as we speak. We spoke about that before the session. Now, carbon markets have huge integrity issues. Now, there can be some very interesting, innovative, fintech based work that you can do to come up with carbon markets with a lot of integrity. To solve those problems, you can use blockchain-based solutions and what have you. They can be quite cerebral. You need to think through how to make that happen. Then you have, the field of environmental law we know of. It's been around for a while. That's pretty much focused on environmental protection, resource use and management and so on. But broadening it that now, when you have social issues coming up or transition issues coming up, that's a whole different field of law. And again, at all levels, you have your very, very senior seasoned lawyers, but you would also need mid-level lawyers to be trained to go there. You need paralegals who need not be lawyers at all, but would need very, very talented, hardworking, people at that level as well. Then you have audit we just spoke about. Environmental audit already is being done a little bit, but again, broaden it to sustainability audit and transition, lots of auditing kind of work to be done to prevent greenwashing. So this is really, and if I can take one more minute to say, this is all very well, Kalpana, but how do you get there? So how you get there, just a couple of thoughts. First, the way to get there is not through generic training programs. We hear a lot about so-and-so being trained, and unless it is tied to a specific role that you're deepening knowledge, general training programs have zero value. Why? Because they don't get you a job at the end of the day. Right? Then what does get you a job? Well, let's think about it from, if you know you want to meet an outcome, then work backwards from there. For example, if you're thinking of regenerative agriculture, okay, so if that is the outcome, then you think, okay, now somebody has to pay. Who will pay? Government won't pay. Government can't pay. It doesn't have unlimited money in its coffers. So you say, okay, you have a food and beverage company, for example, okay? And this food company is procuring, is buying its produce from these particular farms. Means buying coffee beans from Coorg or buying wheat from Punjab or rice from Andhra, whatever. And now you have traceability protocols. You can tell where exactly it's getting its produce from. Then that then aligns incentives in that if it is trying to support regenerative agricultural practices in those villages that is sourcing from, that goes, then those emissions it's mitigating or reducing help it, because the farm's emissions sit on the books of the company, food company, as Scope 3 emissions. So it is in its incentive to say, okay, I need to make sure that the farmers that I'm buying from are doing regenerative agriculture. So then you say, okay, you have room for partnerships. A partnership between a company and, say, a university or a sort of institute which is educating or skilling agricultural scientists or technicians or what have you, that value chain. partnership with the local government just to be aligned with their regulations and so on and so forth. And I would go ahead and say, you also need a strong communications, again, as I was saying, and partnership with the local NGO. You need that support on the ground, not just support, but that relationship on the ground to make sure that several bases are covered. But you need a lot of practical, pragmatic solutions. And so there's just so many jobs to be done everywhere, but what you need is mindful, decision-relevant, and actionable thoughts to really figure out where those opportunities are.
I don't know how you did this. So the ones you mentioned, emissions measurement, audits, carbon markets, environment law, regen ag, communications, these are all the things we are training the kids in the master's program in sustainability at Mahindra University for. So you almost read our minds on what would be the green jobs that we should train these kids for in the master's program. Mr. Tripathi.
Well, yeah, I think very brilliant points made. I'll just give you two concrete examples of, what type of climate excellence can actually not only create green jobs, but make green jobs greener, not only black jobs green. What is the example? Anyone from here is from Nagpur? Well, not. 120 kilometers from there is a village. There is a project called Mati.earth, M-A-T-I, Mati means soil, .earth. And this company has got $50 million award from USA for carrying out this project. Now, when I visited the projects, I never thought it would be like that. Hundreds of people are being employed. Now, what do? They collect dust from the stone crossing sites. India over, we have this basalt stone being crushed for road, for railways and all that, and that powder. They put into gunny bags, have tractors, and that particular day there are 100 tractors, all loaded with this dust, stone dust, basalt stone dust. They are taken to villages, and prior to their going, they have measured the alkalinity of the soil, which is around 6 point. If it is little acidic, they spray this soil, press this stone powder among the paddy fields, and they found the paddy growth goes up and all that. They have got the prize. Now, there was it is a climate action, how to, and I asked this gentleman, how did you come to know about that? He said, we learned it from the history of mass extinctions on Earth, 5 times. And at some point, in one of those extinctions, the carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere had almost gone so much down that everywhere there was ice. Ice in North Pole, South Pole, okay, but even in the tropics, there was CO2. Now, they studied as to why this CO2 level went down in the atmosphere. It was because of various volcanic actions on Earth. And one of those technologies was this basalt powder. When basalt stone powder tries to become calcium to calcium sulfide, they absorb CO2. They are essentially now utilizing that same technology to get CO2 absorbed from the air and get carbon money for this, because you are bringing down CO2. There's a new carbon market. So look at the new climate actions that are coming up. But the second example is from, I spent 3 days in IIT Kanpur studying their climate lab. What type of new climate technologies they're bringing about? They're bringing something called hydrochar. It is biochar, simple thing. But earlier, people used to collect bio-waste, maybe, stubble from the paddy field or, cotton dust, whatever it is. You used to throw it around or just compost it. Now they take it to an iron chamber where they, at around 750 degrees Celsius, they burn it in the absence of oxygen. It becomes lumps. And I tell you that lumps gets per ton $230 in the market, much more than that. So in Nagpur, in many parts of India now, the biochar is going to be a very important thing, because if we would like to be net zero by 2070, we cannot just stop all industries, but we have to compensate it through more climate action. And these are the two examples. The first one I gave in Nagpur is called enhanced rock weathering. You can Google and come to know a lot more. And the second one is hydrochar. IIT Kharagpur calls it hydrochar. IIT Kanpur calls it hydrochar. And ICSE Bangalore calls it biochar. But the technique is the same. Now, here is the labor gets reoriented, re-educated, greener, and the company gets a lot more money. And the first gentleman who got that prize X, $50 million for the Nagpur project. Now, these are only two examples. There are a whole lot of new technologies that are in the lab or are coming up, where new jobs are being created. So when you're talking about emerging technologies and emerging education, the education overall has to catch up with these things. And we have to create a protocol, SOP, teach people, teach the labor force. These are the implications. Thank you.
So you've added nature-based solutions to the palette of green jobs that we can look forward to. I must tell you, when curating a course on nature-based solutions, it is notoriously difficult to build an inventory of possible nature-based solutions for climate action, because that inventory doesn't seem to exist, and you have to depend on listening to wise people such as you to get one example or two. So I probably have an inventory of 5 or 6 nature-based solutions so far, but I need a few more if I have to get that course running in the master's program. That said, what you were saying, Dr. Kant, sir, gave me an idea that any job that helps address or helps achieve a sustainable development goal without hopefully negatively affecting another one could definitely be classified as a green job. And it occurred to me that Dr. Gupta working in disaster management, you working with clean leather, Dr. Sitapalli working in sustainable finance, you as Secretary of MNRE, and me as currently the Center Head of Sustainability and former Chief Sustainability Officer, we've all held green jobs in our lives. And there is a bright possibility that there are some people in the audience who already are holding green jobs. So thank you for adding to the palette of green jobs that youngsters can aspire to. Now we seem to be doing rather well. We have about another 4 or 5 minutes to go. And I've always maintained that in...
First prize, she can come and speak.
One second. I've always maintained that in Delhi, in a conference, those who stay back after lunch are very precious. And those who stay back after tea, after lunch, are die-hard serious people. So that's who you are. And the least I can expect from you is give us a question or two for the panel that we have here on stage. So we've got one hand. Let me see if we've got a second hand. And is there a third hand? And we will close at that. We've got a third hand. Thank you very much. I notice the students are not asking questions. This is almost like it's a classroom. Okay, so, yes, sir.
I think the person who has the mic is probably still at tea, so if you could hear me loud enough, that's fine. Thank you very much for a very interesting, very thought-provoking discussion over here. I have a genuine interest in hearing your opinions on what exactly are you doing within your organizations, within your institutions, to curate courses within the IITs, for example, through a lens of sustainability. I mean, whether it's architecture or engineering or chemical engineering, all jobs can be considered green jobs. You could be developing, architectural courses or making buildings which are inherently going to be green buildings. How do you weave that into your course outline? So, in a sense, is there a deliberate attempt to actually green your curriculum within your institutions? And the second part of that is that there seems to be a disconnect between your higher education institutions and the schools. What is one thing that you could say to schools, as in secondary education, that they should be looking at to be more successful in following pathways that lead to sustainability-oriented or green job prospects? Sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, second question.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for the insightful discussion that we had. My question is about when we are talking about the green jobs, it was mostly in the manufacturing sector. Ma'am, if you would like to enlighten us about the upcoming green jobs in the services sector, especially financial sector. That's all. Thank you.
Sure. Green jobs in the services sector, specifically finance. And we had a question from here. Sir. Well, green jobs comes with the green products, as we have green steel, green cement, and if the labeling for public awareness comes about the green products, and all that which produces highest emission is steel, the automobile, and the cement. So any job which brings value creation in this will definitely make the life green.
Thank you for your comment.
The question on greening education is something that I've been working on for the last 2 years. And so with Dr. Gupta's permission, I'm going to take that question. Also because if I let an IITian talk about this, it will take the next 30 minutes. They have done so much work. In MU, it might take a little shorter time. So here's what we are doing at Mahindra University on this. For the last 2 years, we've been almost embedding courses of sustainability in every other field of education. So there are something like 7 or 8 courses that an engineering student will go through. And the focus is on climate solutions for engineering students. So a lot of the examples that you were sharing with us, sir, are things that the engineering students are being encouraged to do. Similarly, in the management school, there is thinking on how to make sure that the students understand the impact of climate, measure the impact of climate, report the impact of climate without doing greenwashing, and look at green strategies for business. Specific example, in the Mahindra group, in the automotive business, the biggest thing we need to do is to transition to electric vehicles. And so in our strategy, that became a pillar for the future. And if you look at the Mahindra sustainability framework, you'll see a phrase called green revenue. And that drives every business of ours to either make its revenue stream greener through the products becoming greener or adopt new products which are greener, so that in future, if today, let's say 20% of our revenue is green, we will be able to say that, say 50% of our revenue is green 20 years down the line. And we are taking that backwards into the classroom to see that the students will be prepared to be able to go out into the world and do the things that they need to do. So that's a short answer. And we're not the only ones doing it. We've learned from the IITs and many other institutions as well. But the good news is that there is a lot of work happening on that in India, both in environment and social and governance. Let's move now to the second question. And the question was on green jobs in the service sector. Straight up your...
Thank you so much. Thank you for that question. Very, very good question. So, in short, when you talk about green jobs in the financial sector, it is a matter of, first and foremost, integrating sustainability into finance. So, for example, even taking the example that that Anirban was mentioning in terms of green revenues, you need to be able to put a green or a sustainability or sustainable into a financial metric. That's first and foremost. Now, how you do that depends upon your particular, I mean, are you a finance person or an engineering person, or either ways, there are many, many pathways. See, if you go through finance, you study your finance, your MBA and so on, and then you'd have to then, so sometimes you have in different schools, you have masters or bachelors or so on in sustainable finance. So you're already, from your school level itself, you're able to integrate the tools you need to integrate the tools. But if your schools here do not have it, no problem. Wherever it is you go, you're always able to integrate sustainability into finance. And it's both in terms of thinking and strategy, business strategy, but also in terms of modeling. It's one additional portion of financial model where you're integrating the imputed value of sustainability into business decisions. So that's an entire area that you could take a look at. If you are an engineering student, you connect through that. And you could, like the examples I mentioned before, whether it's electrical or mechanical, chemical. The larger point is that there is sustainability everywhere. If you were to mindfully think about it, there's a lot of material out there. from very credible journals and reports and so on, you can get this connection between the natural sciences, the social sciences, and climate action and sustainability. One thing which I'd like to also mention here is when we are talking about anything to do with sustainability, always think in terms of additionality. We do not want, so I'm doing a job, okay? If I now wake up and say, hey, I'm doing a green job, excellent, you can count my job as a green job. Okay, but that's just preserving status quo. But the point is, how much additionality? So what am I able to do? Is it an additional job, or is it doing additional sustainability work on the same job? So that concept of additionality is very important as an organizing principle, because if you're not doing anything additional, you ain't moving the needle. You're just labeling fancy labels on what has been going on for thousands of years. That will not change anything. So just mindfulness is what you need.
Thank you very much for that. The MC is here. Our time is up, so we will close the session. And while we are, I'm presuming there'll be a photograph or something. Yes. So while that is happening, may I request the lady who's wearing the solar watch to come up on stage and take her hard-earned prize? Come, let's do the photograph in the meanwhile.
Let's have a round of applause.
Has she left already?
Then the money is yours.
Well,
and with this, I would like to request. With this, I would like to request Shri Praveen Garg sir to please come on the stage for the photo op and the felicitation of the panelist. President Mobius Foundation.
Such a wonderful speech.
We have the mementos over here. Mr. Anirban, Shri. Okay, firstly, we would like to honor Shri Upendra. Please put your hands together for her, for him. And we also have with us Mr. Anirban Gupta, so we would like to felicitate you as well, sir. And thank you so much for keeping up with the time. Dr. Kalpana, this is for you. An acknowledgement from Mobius Foundation. Dr. Swarnakant. Please put your hands together for her. And Dr. Anil Gupta. Thank you so much, sir. The session was really, really wonderful. Thanks a lot. Thank you. And now we'll move on to our plenary 12. So I would say time ka pata hi nahi chala.